I feel very harassed. No, my group literally ambushed me, so don't worry if I don't point a finger at someone. Anyway, should I start with my name again?
Yes.
My name is Shefa Okore. We were to pick a topic or a theme from this amazing work of art by Gado, whom I really admire so much. I wish I could draw like him, I can't. But anyway, so our theme is democracy. And in layman's terms, simple. What is democracy? Government for the people, by the people, for the people. If you take a look at all this, one photo or one cartoon to the next, you see the lack thereof of democracy, because a lot of this stems from the lack of democracy as a ruling ideology in Kenya. And I could go back and quote Raila Odinga, who said Kenya is still trying to practice democracy, or we're at a verge of, what do we call that? Democracy under trial. So if you look at all this, we come up with 5 points talking about democracy. And our first point is corruption. A government that is for the people, by the people, and of the people, clearly or ideally, shouldn't have to experience as much corruption as our country does. Every single day, we complain about corruption, we talk about corruption. We go forward and ask people, how is it possible that we still have corruption, yet we have institutions that are supposed to be attending or catering to this or ensuring that there is no corruption to begin with? Nobody's punished, no accountability. Impunity is in the rife in Kenya. But we point at the person at the lower end, of which I will make a very biased example, the police. Before we all knew how the police lived, and I'm saying before we all knew because there are people who thought they lived well. There are people who assumed that they're taken care of just because the budget, we see the billions that goes into the police. So we assume that they get their own share, and we are ideally supposed to be secure and supposed to be taken care of. But yet corruption is killing our institutions. I think the only thing that corruption is yet to kill is corruption itself, because it has killed literally everything. It is killing us now as Kenyans. Corruption killed us in Garissa. If it wasn't for corruption, we would still have 147 plus Kenyans. So democracy, we have corruption. And there are numerous cartoons that you can see. You can see from the 2007 election, 2013 elections, the same thing happens. The ECK, the IEBC, all infiltrated by corruption. So we end up with leaders who are not only dictatorial, authoritative, and show us in every opportunity they get that they rule us, and we don't rule them. So it goes back to democracy. For the people, by the people, but not really. That is my second point. Dictatorship. We have seen this come out in utterances of our leaders. I would mention so many. We would run out of comments to make about them. We would talk about cartel, insulting police officers. We would talk about beating. We would talk about Dwale. We would talk about Korea. And we'll talk about how many others are there who have shown us that this country is run by them. Laws are made for them and by them, not for us. Third point, the rule of law. And I would marry that with dictatorship under corruption, which goes back to democracy. A democratic government is supposed to value not just my life, but everybody else's life. We are all the same. Nobody is above the law. Nobody should be above the law. But we find ourselves in a system that, first of all, the law protects the rich from the poor in Kenya. I don't know how many of us get to see that or get to experience that. But I would give an example. When Langata Primary School playground was grabbed, we saw the police who were supposed to protect the children, protect the land grabber. What were they protecting the children from? Were the children going to do something to the land that was illegal, that was not rightfully theirs? Who are the policemen protecting in an empty space of land that initially belonged to a school? So we find that in Kenya, there is no rule of law. Nobody respects the law, especially if you're somebody who calls themselves a leader. They used the police to protect the wrongdoers, and we see that every day. And they play that card so well to a point that even if you go further and look at even the court cases, the judicial processes, the ICC case, what happens to them? Is there rule of law? Is there accountability? Is there transparency? We don't see that. My fourth point, the justice system, which is tied to the rule of law. We have a justice system that is highly porous. How? If any of us have ever been to court, like I have, unfortunately, I didn't do anything illegal, but I have been to court, you would see how the system works. Files disappear, dates are postponed, depending on who is paying who, depending on who has clout. And the case is always won by the person who has more money. So if it was me going against somebody, it doesn't matter how much I was on the wrong or how much they needed to be held accountable. The system will favor the rich. The system will favor the other person over the civilian. So in a democratic government, in a democratic space, is it still a rule of the people, by the people, for the people? Justice is supposed to ensure that that happens, but it doesn't. My fifth point, leadership, integrity, chapter 6. I don't know if anybody realizes, but our leaders don't even think chapter 6 exists. Because in my mind, I ask myself, if really chapter 6 was in play, would we even have the current regime in power? Let's just have a wild, let's just think wildly. Because chapter 6 is about integrity. Chapter 6 is about ensuring that somebody who has integral value, somebody who we can know and account for their wealth, and somebody who is clearly able to lead a country like Kenya is in office or runs for public office. So chapter 6, ideally in its essence and in the spirit of that very constitution, disqualifies almost 3/4 of the leaders we have right now, starting from the president. But then they're here. Is that democracy? Who is implementing the TDRC report? Wagala massacre. Who is looking into all those things? A democratic government, a democratic space, and truly a democratic leadership wouldn't experience all this. I would say so much, but I think I only have 10 minutes. So I will respect that. And I will end by saying, we live in a country where the only people who are listened to are of two types. The person who has money, who eventually has clout, and this very person also has a name because they have money. And the second person people listen to is the person who has a gun. And we don't realize it yet, but we have seen Zongo. And I'm sorry that I don't call him honorable, because I don't find anything honorable about him. We've seen him gallivanting in town with guns. But yet, instead of the Mwananchi feeling and asking themselves, why does my leader need AK-47s and 3,000 people around him to give him protection? Protecting him from what? What do we want to do with our senator, or to do to him? Why does he have guns? Why don't you have guns? Why don't you have the same guns, to shoot down all the wallets that takes your taxes and doesn't account for it? I don't know. So anyway, I shall step aside from this conversation.